Welcome to the studio. Come on in. So welcome to the studio. My name is Sarah Brabbin, and you're here because you want to learn to play with clay the easy way, without all the faff, without the kilns, without the glazes, without having to know anything about it. It's a wonderful opportunity to get your hands on some clay, just to feel how it behaves, learn some basic techniques, things that you can take forward if you decide it's something you want to pursue more in depth. But in the meantime, it's just about having a bit of fun and getting your hands a bit dirty, reconnecting your brain and your hands and your heart, rather than being stuck behind a computer screen or a mobile phone all the time. So I hope you enjoy it. I'm really thankful that you're here, and let's crack on. So a little bit about me, why you should listen to me, or why you shouldn't. I've been messing about with clay now for about 4 years. Before that I used to be a professional photographer, and when the pandemic hit, obviously the world stopped, and there was nothing to photograph apart from nature, which was always my first love, and I'd forgotten about it. Forgot about art. The world had got in the way, and I was doing something sensible for a living. Well, I decided it was time to reconnect with the nature and reconnect with art, and I discovered clay, fell in love with it, and decided that's what I wanted to do for the rest of my life. And I feel so much more relaxed. It's given me confidence, trying new things. Oh, little bug. Sorry, easily distracted. What was I saying? Oh, yes, clay is brilliant. It's made a massive change in my life, and maybe by being here, you'll discover that it does the same for you. Air drying clay, what is it? Well, as Ron Seal would say, it does what it says on the tin. It's clay and it dries in the air. Now all clays will dry in the air, but this stuff has little nylon fibres in it. It's reinforced, so it gives it extra strength. So you don't actually need to fire it, which is great because firing opens a whole new can of worms. And when you're just starting out, you don't want to be worrying about temperatures and combs and all this kind of stuff. You just want to have a muck about with some mud, really. And I think that air drying clay is probably one of the most accessible ways to get started. So this is the clay that I recommend. It's by Scola. This is a 12.5 kilo bag. I had to look then. So it's quite heavy, but they do smaller versions as well. I think it's 5 kilo. So yeah, let's open it and see what's inside. And as you can see, it's very smooth. There's no gritty bits in it, but it does have nylon fibres, so that's what gives it its extra strength. And you don't have to fire this, but you can if you want, and you can decorate it afterwards as well. They recommend using acrylics, and you can give it a seal, so like a glossy coat, using PVA glue, and it's good stuff, nice to work with. You'll know it's dry because it changes colour. So it'll go from a dark colour to a lighter colour. And it's solid and it's hard, so you'll know when it's dry. Tools. Do you need tools? Not really. I mean, for what they cost these days, you know, you could treat yourself. But personally, I think your hands are the best tool. And when you're first starting, it's best to get used to the feel of the clay from your hands itself rather than through a tool. And as far as the actual tools themselves go, you can use anything from around your house. You can buy specialist bits of tools online, even use things out of your cutlery drawer. These are great. These pens, big pens, really expensive. So the number one most important piece of equipment that you'll need is water. It's not really equipment. It could be a bucket of water or a bowl full of water, but whatever you do when you're messing about with clay, make sure you got some fresh water. Or previously used water like this. Didn't think that one through, did I? So basically, when you work with clay, it can dry out and the dust isn't good for you. So ideally you want to keep everything as damped down as possible. And when you're working with clay, it can be very tempting to use a lot of water. And what happens is it gets all sticky and claggy. It's not a good idea. So the best thing to do is get yourself one of these little spray bottles, and that just adds a little bit of water rather than a lot of water, and it gives you more control over the actual clay itself, because when it gets sticky it's really difficult to work with. The other important thing to think about with the water is disposing of it. Now, you don't want to put anything that's got clay on it through your sinks, because the clay eventually will clog your pipes, and nobody likes clogged pipes. So what you want to do is wash everything in the same bowl or bucket and leave it, and what will happen is the clay will settle to the bottom, and then you're able to just pour the water off the top. Now, I use the water to water the plants, and then whatever bits of soggy clay's left, I'll scoop it out and I'll pop it in a little container. And when you're working with clay, it's good to keep your hands and your tools clean. So if you wash them, but always dry them off, because if you start working with clay like this, when you've got wet hands, it's just going to go everywhere. Just technical term. So just make sure you've got some water around and a towel to dry your hands, and you'll be fine. Top tip, don't eat it. So let's get the workspace sorted out. First thing you're going to need is some plastic sheeting, otherwise known as a bin bag. This is just so that you can keep your work surface clean, and when the clay starts to dry and it gets a bit dusty, you can wipe it off with something wet. Because what we don't want is lots of dry clay dust floating around, because it's not good for you. So work surface, and I would suggest on top of the plastic you find either an old tea towel or an old pillowcase, and that just stops the clay sticking to the plastic. Now, a lot of people use newspaper the first time and it sticks. It's worse than the plastic. So yeah, something material that's not going to disintegrate. So either a pillowcase or an old tea towel, something that's not textured though. So go and get yourself a handful of clay out of the bag. And what we're going to do first is flatten this to a piece about 1 centimetre thick. And then we're going to get used to the feel of the clay and what it takes to push, a bit of pressure, smoothing. So we'll go ahead and get this flattened off. You can either do it by slapping it on the table, turning it, slapping it, turning it, slapping it, or you could do it between your hands. It doesn't have to be a uniform thickness. Just to give you an idea. So now that we've done that, if your hands are a little bit sticky or covered, the best thing to do is just swish them in the bowl of water and dry them off, which I shall do just now. Okay, so the first thing I want you to do is take your thumbs and gently just lay them on top of the clay, and ever so slightly just push them in a little bit and then take them off. Okay, and then we're going to come down, put your thumbs on again, and this time you're going to push really hard and see what happens. And then the third time with your thumbs, I want you to go somewhere in between the two that you've just done. Feel how much pressure that takes. Okay, so we'll put that to one side for now, and we'll get another piece of clay. We're going to do the same again. We're going to flatten it off, again to about 1 centimetre thick. Okay, again, if you want to wash your hands off, you can. Just make sure they're dry. And this time we're going to smooth it. So when we're smoothing clay, I like to use the sides of my thumbs. You might find it easier to use the whole of your thumb, but I tend to do it from the sides. And the same goes with the fingers as well. Again, it depends on what feels nice to you. And it comes with practice. Just try lots of different things and techniques, and you'll find a nice way of working. So taking your thumbs, I want you to go about halfway up and then gently smooth. We're not pressing down and we're not pushing, we're gently smoothing. So we're gradually depressing a little bit. Still smoothing, just gently smoothing. And so you can see what it looks like. Nice and smooth. Okay, turn it over. And this time I'm going to use a bit of force, just to show you the difference between the gently smoothing and the pushing of the clay. So again with your thumbs, about halfway up, this time we're going to push them down a little bit, not all the way through, and push. Now you can see what's happened. It's smoothed it, but it's also moved the clay. So instead of gently depressing it one bit at a time, this has actually physically shifted the material. So have a play around with that and pop that to one side, and then get another piece of clay. And the same again, we're just going to flatten it out. This time, try it with your fingers. I'm just going to wash my hands off, because when you've got bits of clay on, it can make it a little bit messy as you're working. So best to keep your hands and your tools clean and dry. So maybe just starting with your forefingers. Not four fingers, not like 4 candles. Index finger, that's the one I'm looking for. And just smooth. And see how it feels underneath your fingers. Now you might find that one side feels more sensitive than the other, and that's also quite useful to know. Just get used to the feel of the clay. And maybe try your other fingers. I mean, I find that quite tricky. And the same with those other ones. And little fingers are quite tricky as well. But you might find that you actually prefer working that way. It's all trial and error. Give it a try. So now we've got the feel of the clay a little bit more. I want you to grab another handful of clay, and this time we're going to split it into 3, and they don't have to be even. Just into 3 pieces, like so. And we're going to make some balls. Now there's different ways of doing it. I find that there's one way that suits me better than the others, but it's a case of just playing around and seeing what you like. So for me, I like to roll it between the palms of my hands. So each side is working together. So we're just keeping it within this space here. And we're not putting too much pressure on. Just gently rolling it between your hands. And you don't want to work it too much, you don't want to roll it for too long, because as you're doing it, it's sucking the moisture out of the clay, and that can lead to cracking. So that's ball number one. So the second ball, we'll try rolling it against a hard surface and see how that feels for you. So again, we're going to use this part of the hand and just gently roll it around in a circle against a surface. Now for me, I don't feel like I've got as much control doing it this way. But you might find that you prefer it this way. So that's my potato. I could probably spend ages rolling it and trying to get it as a sphere, but I know I fail miserably at that bit. So I'm just better off just sticking it between my hands and rolling. And you get used to working different ways. And then the last one, I'm going to try pinching it. So just gently squeezing it between your fingers and your thumbs. Just rolling it around as you go in. So the idea is we're going to turn this into a sphere, bit by adding a bit of pressure. We're not squashing it really hard, we're just gently squeezing and turning. Squeezing and turning. And again, you'll get a feel for it. This way for me takes longer than the rolling, but it does give you control. And you know you're done when you've got a sphere. So get yourself some more clay and have another go and see which method you like best. So next up, grab yourself another lump of clay, another handful. We're going to try making some sausages. And it's just a case of rolling them out really. So split it into two. And what I do is I like to start it off in my hands first. So I'll give it a bit of a squish. Just a little bit. And then wrap your fingers around it and just give it a gentle squeeze. Then turn it. Give it a gentle squeeze. Turn it. Gentle squeeze. So you're starting off the sausage shape. And then once you've got it to roughly a round sausage, pop it to one side and do the same with the other. So give it a bit of a squish to start it, and then wrap your fingers around, gently squeeze, turn, gently squeeze. Just keep gently turning and squeezing until you've got a bit of a sausage going on. Okay, so you should have two sausages now. Now the first one we're going to try rolling with the palms of our hands, which is the natural way to want to do it. But I find that doing that can put a lot of pressure on, and it also makes it quite uneven for me. But you might find that you want to put the extra pressure on. So again, we're going to try it. So I put my hands together and roll it gently backwards and forwards, and you're only going across this section here. And as it goes thinner, you'll find it's coming apart, so just move your hands along with it as it goes. Like so. And there you've got a sausage. So the next one, we'll use this part of our hands here. And we'll start about here and we'll roll it in between this area. And as we roll it out, our hands part. And the idea is you want to try and keep an even pressure, because you want your sausages to be uniformly thick if you can. And it just takes lots of practice. And if you find it starts to go in a bit of an oblong shape, give it a bit of a tap. We're not precious. And there you got your two sausages. So now we're going to make some bowls. So grab yourself another lump of clay and then split it into two. And then we're going to create a solid ball for each one. So just give them a squeeze to start with, to a rough ball shape. And then remember how we made the balls earlier into spheres. You can either roll them against the table, roll them between your hands, or pinch and squeeze all the way around. My favourite is to roll between my hands, so that's what I'll do for these. Like so. And once you've got your two bowls, just give your hands a quick rinse off. Dry them. And then what we're going to do is turn these both into bowls. So ideally we want to keep that round shape. So if you imagine a breakfast bowl and it's half a sphere, that's what we're aiming for. So to do that, we're going to do something called the pinch pop technique, and it's basically using our thumb to gently depress into the ball to create a bowl shape. Say that once you've had a few drinks. Okay, so we're going to wrap our hand around the other ball just to support it, to stop it from going flat, and then with our thumb we're going to gently depress and then turn. Gently depress and turn, just to get it started off. And what we don't want to do is push too hard and end up with a really thin wall. We're aiming for this wall here to be about 1 centimetre thick and still keep it as a half sphere shape. So once you've started it off, you can use these fingers on the edges to give it a bit more support as you pinch it a little bit more as you're turning it round. And if you've got fingernails, this is probably going to be a little bit more difficult. We're just pinching and turning, pinching and turning. Like I say, you don't want it too thin. So that's about right. And don't worry about the cracks. Don't worry about those at all. And then when I've done one, I'll gently tap it to make this edge flat and leave it to one side. And then we'll do the other one in the same way. So supporting with your other hand, gently depressing, turning it, gently depressing, turning, always supporting that clay. And then bringing in these fingers to help as well. Just a little bit at a time is all you need. I'd say medium pressure. And turning. And we don't want it too thin, remember, about 1 centimetre thick. Okay, so yeah, just a little gentle tap, and those are your bowls. So now we've got the two bowls, we're going to join them together to create a hollow sphere. Now, when we're using normal clay and we're going to fire it, it's always good to have things hollow because it dries more evenly, dries quicker, and there's less chance of things going pop in the kiln. So that's why we tend to do things hollow. Plus it uses less clay up as well. So what we're going to do is we're going to cross hatch each surface and then join them together. And the reason why we cross hatch is because it helps the clay stick together and form that join. And also to help it, we're going to use a little spray of water, just a little, we don't need much. Now to create the cross hatches, this tool here, this really expensive pen, I like to use the edge of one of these tops. Who says you need expensive equipment, eh? What we're going to do is we're going to score using the edge of the tool, pen top, whatever you want to call it. In one direction. Then we're going to turn it and cross hatch it in the other direction. It's like a game of noughts and crosses. Okay, and once you've done one, do the other one. Like so, and then I'll just give them a quick 2 squirts of water just so you can see it glistening. It doesn't have to be soggy, just a little bit of water, and then line them up and gently press, but you don't want to push because you're going to flatten it with your hands. So again, supporting it gently and squeezing it a little bit together like so. And you might use your thumbs to press it a little bit more in the centre. Okay, so then what we need to do is smooth over this line. Now, how I tend to do it is I use the side of my thumb and I'll take it from one side to the other. Now, we don't want to press really hard and drag it. It's a very light smoosh. And it's from one side to another, because if you go from one side and then back, you're going to start causing issues with the join. So from one side to the other, and it doesn't matter if you get little bits, just take them off, put them to the side. Just smoosh all the way around, and that gets rid of the join for you. And then you can just spend a bit of time smoothing over. So remember we tried the smoothing technique on the clay earlier with our fingers and our thumbs. this is what we're going to do with the ball. You can use your fingers, you can use your thumbs, whatever you're comfortable with using. I like to use my fingers once I've smoothed the gap over. Again, it's the side of my fingers. It doesn't have to be perfect. It just helps smooth it all over. This is one of my favourite parts, just smoothing. Very therapeutic. If you find that it's drying out and starting to crack, you can just give it a squirt of water, just a little mist rather than a full-on blast or a shower. And that just takes some of the cracks out. There you have your sphere, your hollow ball. A hedgehog. So one of those balls you made earlier, or if you haven't got any left, if you've squashed them or turned them into something else, which happens, get yourself another bit of clay and create a ball. You can do it by the pinching technique, rolling against the table, rolling it between your hands until you got a little ball. So hedgehogs have got a nice round shape at the back and a pointy nose at the front. So what we can do is gently smoosh the clay from the centre of the ball to create a nose. And just keep gently smooshing that clay to a point. We're not digging our fingers in and pulling it. We're using the smooshing, smoothing. Bit at a time, nice and slowly. Till we're getting to a point. Once you've got a point, give little hoggy a little gentle tap on the table, give him a flat bottom, so you know which way he's going to be facing. He's front and he's back. So once you've got the basic shape, you can just use your fingers to smoosh it a bit more. If you want to give it a bit more shape, you can. I like to give mine a little curvy nose, so it curves upwards a little bit. Give him a little nose. So you got a little hedgehog shape. And then I get my expensive tool again. And the pen tip, I give him 2 little nostrils. Like so. And then the eyes, you can do all sorts. You can give him a couple of little eyeballs using the end of your pen. Like so. But if you think those eyes are too small, you can smush over them, smooth them again, Again, gently smoothing. Give him some big old eyeballs. And then what you can do is just use the top of the pen and pull it out to give him some little ears. So you're just using the end of the pen, pulling it out like so. Like a little indent. And it doesn't matter if it's rough at this point, because when he's dried off a little bit you can smooth him out. And then you can give him some spikes. You can use an old mascara brush. This is a tool, but it's only because I can't find my toothbrush. And I don't want to use the one that's in the bathroom. So anything that's got like little bristles and brushes, and you can just tap him all the way around on the bit where his spikes would be, just to give that different feel and different look. But you could do that with a toothbrush easy as well. Like so. And again, I like to leave them for a little bit just to dry out, and then it makes them a bit easier to smooth and you don't get little clumpy bits. This one I made earlier, as you can see it's a lighter colour. That means it's getting nice and dry. Sorry. Such a child. This one I've just given a bit of texture to imitate a bit of fur. You can do that as well with your mascara brush or your toothbrush, just brushing the direction that the hair would go. And there you go. Little solid hoggies. So any bits of clay that we've been messing about with, I tend to put in a separate bag. So all these flat pieces that we've mucked about with and the balls, these will all go in this bag here. And the sausages. And what I'll tend to do is just add a little bit of water. Either spray it in or add some more. And then when you're closing the bag, squeeze some of the air out and then roll it down from the top. And that way it stops any dry bits at the top from dropping in. And then if you keep that somewhere cool and dry, that's the best place, rather than it being in a hot summer house like it is here. It'll keep better in somewhere like, say, a garage or basement, somewhere cool, just out of the sunshine.